Get him out of here. My wife's voice cracked across the ballroom like a champagne glass shattering on marble. Then she pointed at me in front of 200 people and said, loud enough for the string quartet to stop playing, "You are nobody, Noah. Don't embarrass me in front of people who actually matter." If stories about love, betrayal, and the exact moment a broken man finally stands up ever hit you in the chest, subscribe, like the video, and stay with me until the end. Because what happened after that sentence didn't just end a marriage. It exposed every lie that had been living under my roof. The room smelled like roses, expensive perfume, and money. My money. $10 million in stone, glass, imported walnut, and quiet old ghosts sitting on a hill above the city. A mansion I bought 3 years before I married Celeste. A house I restored room by room because my mother used to tell me when we lived in a one-bedroom apartment above a laundromat that a real home didn't need to be big. It just needed to be safe. That night, it wasn't. Celeste stood at the center of the ballroom in a silver dress that caught every light in the room. She looked beautiful in the way lightning looks beautiful right before it burns a tree in half. Her hand still gripped the stem of a wine glass. Her smile was sharp and practiced. Next to her stood Grant Holloway. Perfect teeth, tailored tucks, hand casually resting near the small of her back like he'd forgotten people were watching. Or maybe he hadn't forgotten at all. 2 security men started toward me because Celeste had snapped her fingers at them like they were house pets. Guests shifted, pretending not to stare while staring harder. Someone whispered. Someone else lifted a phone. I should tell you something important. I wasn't in a tux. I was wearing dark jeans, work boots, and a black button-down with the sleeves rolled up because 10 minutes earlier I'd been in the West Wing with the contractor, checking water damage near the ceiling beam Celeste insisted on covering with floral installations even after I told her not to overload the rigging. I looked like a man who worked for the house. And for the first time in our marriage, she used that. She smiled at the guests as if she were apologizing for a stray dog wandering into a gala. "Marcus," she said to my head of security without looking at me, "please remove him." Marcus didn't move. That was the first crack in her performance. She frowned. "Did you hear me?" Marcus looked at me instead. So did everyone else. Grant stepped forward, smooth and smug. "Noah, don't do this tonight. You've had a hard time lately." Let's keep this dignified. A hard time. That almost made me laugh. 3 hours earlier, my attorney had texted me one sentence. "We have everything." I had been waiting all night for the right moment, not out of revenge. At least that's what I told myself. Truth was, when the woman you once loved starts rehearsing your destruction in your own home, something dark wakes up in you. Not evil, not madness. Clarity. Celeste tilted her head like I was something sticky on the bottom of her shoe. "You hear that silence, Noah? That's what happens when you walk into rooms you don't belong in." I looked at her for a long second, and in that second, I saw every version of us. The first time I met her outside a coffee shop in the rain, laughing because her car wouldn't start and she was cursing at it in heels. The night I sat in an emergency room with her father until sunrise when his chest pains turned out to be a blocked artery. The tiny apartment we shared when we were first married, back before she started saying things like, "Do you know how hard it is being married to a man with no presence?" The day she cried in my arms and told me she never wanted to become the kind of woman who measured love by status. Funny how people confess their future crimes when they still think they're innocent. I stepped forward. "Marcus," I said calmly, Escort my wife and Mr. Holloway off my property. No one breathed. Celeste laughed first, a bright, ugly sound. Then she looked around, waiting for everyone else to laugh too. A few did. Grant smiled. "Come on, Noah, enough." But Marcus touched his earpiece and said, "Yes, sir." That one word hit harder than a slap. Sir. Celeste's smile fell apart so quickly it was almost frightening. "What did he just call you?" I didn't answer her. I looked at Grant. "You should leave while you still have a choice." Grant straightened. "This is Celeste's event." "No," I said. "It's my house, my staff, my security, my guest list. And the only reason you made it through the front gate is because I wanted both of you inside the same room when this ended." Now the whispers got louder. Celeste blinked like the room had suddenly tilted. "What are you talking about? Noah, stop being dramatic." Dramatic. That word used to work on me. It used to make me doubt my own eyes. When I found a second phone in her dressing room drawer 6 weeks earlier, I told myself there had to be an explanation. When I saw Grant's cufflink under our bed, I stared at it so long my vision blurred, then convinced myself it must have fallen from a dry cleaning bag, because the truth was too disgusting to touch. When our housekeeper Rosa quietly told me, with tears in her eyes, that Mrs. Mercer had started locking the study every Thursday afternoon and dismissing staff from the East Corridor, I thanked her and still tried to protect Celeste in my mind. Love can make a smart man negotiate with evidence. What broke me wasn't the affair. It was the audio. I found it by accident. Celeste had synced the wrong phone to the car. I was driving back from the cemetery after visiting my mother's grave. It was her birthday. I had brought lilies because she loved them, and I sat there longer than usual because grief doesn't disappear when money arrives. It just gets quieter and learns better manners. When I started the engine, the Bluetooth connected. Grant's voice came through the speakers first. "You keep playing with him, he's going to notice." Celeste laughed. That laugh. The one I used to think meant joy. "He notices everything," she said. "He just doesn't do anything. That's Noah's problem. He builds things, fixes things, pays for things. But when it comes to people, he wants to believe the best. It's pathetic." My hands locked around the steering wheel. Grant asked, "So when are you leaving him?" And Celeste said the sentence that hollowed me out. "When the transfer's done. I'm not walking away from this life empty-handed. Please, I earned it. I spent 5 years turning a nobody into someone people can tolerate." I pulled over so fast I nearly hit the curb. I don't remember how long I sat there. I just remember the sound of my own breathing, like I'd been punched underwater. That night I didn't confront her. I went home. I kissed her cheek. I asked how dinner with friends was. She looked me in the eye and lied with ease that terrified me. That's when I hired a private investigator. That's when I called Lena Shaw, the attorney who handled the purchase of the mansion. And that's when I found out the affair was the least dangerous part. Because Celeste and Grant weren't just sleeping together. They were planning to take everything they could and leave me looking unstable enough that no one would question it. Grant had been feeding her ideas for months, convincing her I was too emotionally attached to the house, too private, too erratic after my mother died. They had emails discussing forged signatures, drafts of a new trust structure. Notes about getting me to sign papers while distracted during a charity expansion project I funded in Celeste's name. And the part that made me physically sick? She had used my mother's stationery box to hide some of the documents. The same carved wooden box I'd kept sealed since the funeral, because I couldn't bear opening it. When Lena told me that, I threw up in my office trash can. Not because of the money, because betrayal always hurts worst when it walks through sacred places with dirty shoes. Back in the ballroom, Celeste took a step toward me. "Noah, if this is about business documents, we can discuss them privately." I almost admired how fast she adjusted, still performing, still trying to rescue herself. Grant folded his hands in front of him like a statesman. "This really shouldn't happen in front of donors." "You're right," I said. "It should have happened the day you two first met in my dining room and decided I was too stupid to protect what I built." A woman near the bar covered her mouth. Another guest slowly put his phone down. Celeste's face changed, just a flicker, but I saw it. Fear. "I don't know what you think you heard." "Heard?" I said. "No. Saw. Read. Recorded." Grant's jaw tightened. And because I'd spent too many nights swallowing humiliation in silence, because I was tired of letting their version of me stand in the room like it was real, I nodded toward the archway. Lena stepped in. Black suit, slim folder, composed expression. Behind her came a uniformed officer and a plainclothes investigator. The room went ice cold. Celeste turned pale. "What is this?" Lena didn't raise her voice. She never had to. "Mrs. Mercer, Mr. Holloway, we have documented evidence of conspiracy to commit fraud, attempted coercive transfer of protected assets, and unlawful entry into a restricted financial office on multiple dates. Mr. Mercer has chosen not to make a scene until all materials were verified." Celeste looked at me like she'd never seen me before. Maybe she hadn't. Grant recovered first. Men like him always do. "This is absurd. Whatever misunderstandings exist can be handled by counsel." "Absolutely," Lena said. "Your counsel can contact mine." Then she opened the folder and pulled out still images. Security footage from the study. Grant entering through the terrace doors at 1:12 a.m. Celeste following 6 minutes later. Celeste photographing deed documents. Grant placing a duplicate envelope in the locked cabinet. Another image. Their kiss in the wine cellar. Not for the guests, for me. Because heartbreak sometimes needs proof even after the soul already knows. Celeste stared at the photo, then at me, and something desperate broke through her mask. "Noah, listen to me." I laughed. Small. Bitter. "Now you want me to listen." What came next should have satisfied me. It didn't. Because revenge is strangely empty when the person ruining your life once knew how you took your coffee and which shoulder hurt when it rained. She moved toward me, fast enough that Marcus stepped between us. Tears flooded her eyes on command. She was good. She'd always been good. "Grant manipulated me," she said, voice trembling. "He told me things about you. He said you were moving money, that you didn't trust me, that you were planning to cut me out and leave me with nothing. I was scared." Grant turned to her so sharply his composure cracked. "Don't do that." And there it was. The first real moment all night. Not polished, not staged. Panic. She pointed at him. "You said Noah would be fine." You said men like him always survive because they don't feel anything. I felt the whole room watching me, waiting, judging which version of the story they were witnessing now. The tyrant husband, the humiliated fool, the cold billionaire. People love simple roles. Real pain never fits inside them. You want to know what's funny? I said quietly. Celeste's chest rose and fell. I looked straight at her. I would have given you almost anything if you'd just told me you were unhappy. That landed harder than the legal threats. I saw it in her face. Because it was true. I paid off her brother's rehab when he relapsed the second time and begged the clinic not to tell anyone it was me. I covered her father's surgery after his insurance denied part of it. I bought the gallery space for her foundation because she said she wanted to create something meaningful, something that wasn't just parties and labels and empty women complimenting one another's bones. I even renovated this house around her tastes. The ballroom, the garden terrace, the damn mirrored dressing suite upstairs she said made her feel like she finally belonged somewhere beautiful. And maybe that was my flaw. I loved by building. She loved by consuming. By the time I understood the difference, we were standing in the ruins. A voice rose from the back of the room. Celeste. Everyone turned. Her father stood near the doorway, one hand gripping his cane, the other shaking. I hadn't invited him. Lena had. After she learned he'd unknowingly signed witness papers Grant tried to pass off during a charity restructuring lunch. Miguel Alvarez looked smaller than usual that night. Older. Heartbroken in a way only parents can be when their child becomes someone they no longer recognize. Celeste whispered, "Dad?" He looked at her, then at me. And when he spoke, his voice cracked. This man sat with me when I thought I was dying. He paid for the stent that kept me alive. He never told you because he didn't want you to think he was buying my respect. Celeste's lips parted. Miguel took a painful step forward. You said he was controlling. You said he wanted people indebted to him. But do you know what he said to me in that hospital room? She was crying now, really crying, but he didn't stop. He said, "Please don't tell Celeste. She hates feeling trapped, and I want her to love me freely." That was the moment she looked wrecked. Not exposed, wrecked. Because some truths don't just accuse you. They show you the exact depth of what you destroyed. For one insane second, I almost went to her. That was the old reflex. The man who used to soften every blow she created. Then Grant made his final mistake. He stepped away from her and said, flat and disgusted, "This is why I told you not to get emotional." Every head in the room turned. Celeste stared at him like she'd finally found the snake under the flowers. "Not emotional?" she whispered. Grant shrugged, cornered enough to become honest. "You were useful when you were smart. Don't collapse now." You could actually hear the room recoil. And there it was. The second betrayal. Because the woman who had betrayed me had also been stupid enough to trust a man who never respected her either. I should have felt triumphant. Instead, I felt tired. Ancient, suddenly. Marcus moved closer. "Sir?" I nodded. "Escort them both out." Celeste's eyes snapped back to me. "Noah, please, don't do this in front of everyone." I held her gaze. "You already did." Marcus and another guard approached Grant first. He protested, threatened lawsuits, tried to jerk free, then realized no one in the room was stepping in for him. Not one donor, not one ally. Not one of the men who had laughed at my clothes 15 minutes earlier. Money respects gravity. It falls away from the weak. Then they turned to Celeste. She looked around wildly, searching for sympathy, for one friendly face, one woman from her charity board, one guest who would say this had gone too far. But humiliation is a lonely country. She took a shaky breath. Noah, I know I don't deserve kindness right now. But please, not like this. My throat tightened. This is the part people never tell you. Power doesn't erase grief. Standing taller doesn't mean your heart stops remembering the nights she slept against your chest. The plans. The dumb private jokes. The anniversary dinner where she cried because she said no one had ever made her feel safe before me. I remembered all of it. And still, I said, you used my love like a hallway to reach another life. Her face crumpled. That door is closed. Marcus gently took her arm. She didn't fight anymore. They led her through the ballroom, past the fountain of champagne, past the table where we once cut a birthday cake together, past the guests who moved aside like she carried contagion. At the front steps, she turned once. Rain had started outside, soft at first, silver under the lights. Noah, she cried. Not angry now, just terrified. I stopped in the doorway, but didn't go to her. And because endings are cruel, because the universe sometimes insists on one final twist of the knife, Rosa, the housekeeper, appeared behind me, holding a small velvet box. My apologies, sir, she said softly. This was found in Mrs. Mercer's car. I thought you should have it. I opened it. Inside was my mother's ring, the one Celeste told me had gone missing during renovations. For a second, I couldn't see. The sound in my ears turned distant and hollow. I walked down one step into the rain. Celeste saw the ring and covered her mouth. Noah, I was going to bring that back. That lie, more than all the others, finally killed something in me. Because my mother wore that ring for 28 years while working double shifts and pretending not to be tired so I would dream bigger than our zip code. After she died, I kept it locked away, not because it was expensive, but because it was hers, warm with history, sacred to me. And Celeste had taken it, maybe to sell, maybe to hide. Maybe just because she knew what mattered to me and wanted leverage. I didn't ask. Some answers rot the moment they're spoken. I closed the box. Then I handed it to Rosa and said, "Put it in the safe." Celeste started sobbing, real, ugly sobs. Rain streaked her makeup down her face. "Please," she said, "I made a mistake." I looked at her one last time. "No," I said. "A mistake is forgetting a birthday. A mistake is saying something cruel in anger. This was strategy." The gates opened. Grant was already outside, furious and soaked, shouting into his phone. Celeste stood on the stone drive in bare feet now, one heel broken, silver dress darkening in the rain, and for the first time since I'd known her, she looked exactly like what she had tried to make me feel. Small. The doors closed. Inside, no one spoke. Then Miguel walked over to me, placed a trembling hand on my shoulder and said, "I'm sorry for the daughter I raised and the man I failed to protect." I didn't know what to do with that, so I just nodded. The guests began leaving in embarrassed clusters. No one asked for refunds for their donations. No one tried to explain themselves. They slipped out quietly, taking their perfumes and judgment with them. By midnight, the mansion was almost silent. Rosa had cleared the glasses. The quartet was gone. Rain tapped softly against the tall windows. I stood alone in the ballroom, where my marriage had just been buried, and looked at my reflection in the dark glass. Same face, same hands, same man she called nobody. But something had changed. For years, I had confused humility with invisibility. I thought staying quiet made me honorable. Thought absorbing disrespect made me strong. Thought loving someone meant shrinking enough for them to feel tall. It doesn't. It just teaches them where to press. A week later, Grant was arrested on fraud charges tied to other deals Lena's team uncovered once they started pulling the thread. Celeste's name disappeared from every board she'd begged to join. The divorce was brutal, then brief. The prenup held. The mansion stayed mine. But the real victory wasn't legal. It happened 3 months later on a Sunday morning. I opened the West Wing, the one Celeste wanted turned into a private lounge, and instead funded a foundation there for women and kids leaving unstable homes. Counseling rooms, emergency housing offices, career training. Real help. The kind my mother would have trusted. On opening day, Rosa cried. Miguel hugged me. I nearly lost it when they unveiled the plaque. Evelyn Mercer House. Safe, just like she wanted. That night I walked through the halls after everyone left. No music, no donors, no performance. Just quiet. The good kind. I stood in the doorway of the old ballroom and looked up at the chandelier Celeste once said made her feel important. It didn't impress me anymore. What impressed me was peace. What impressed me was surviving humiliation without becoming cruel. What impressed me was finally understanding that being underestimated can be a gift, because it gives you room to see who people really are when they think your silence means weakness. Celeste called twice after the divorce. I didn't answer. The third time, she left a voicemail. She said she missed the man who used to believe in her. I deleted it. Because the truth is, I did believe in her. I just learned too late that some people don't want love. They want access. And if you hand them your heart while apologizing for its worth, they'll decorate themselves with the pieces and still call you nothing. She called me a nobody in the middle of my own house. What she didn't understand was that a nobody doesn't build a life from pain. A nobody doesn't bury his mother, carry a family, survive betrayal, and still choose not to burn everything down. A nobody doesn't open the front door for broken people and make safety out of stone. So no, I wasn't nobody. I was just patient long enough for the masks to fall. And when they did, the only people left standing in the rain were the ones who mistook my kindness for weakness. So tell me, if the person you loved looked you in the eye and called you nobody, would you have walked away quietly? Or made them leave the house you built?